down MVP Black on the third map. And as the third map, as you can see here, we are going to have Dragonshire. So a lot of coordination needed to make it happen. And right now, I mean, this is all or nothing for Tempest. They need to win this one to start a reverse sweep or they are out of the tournament.
And I wonder what it is that Tempest has in mind. Obviously, opting to go first pick over map pick. And they have to have something in mind. And after what we saw from MVP Black in the previous series on this battleground, it really makes me worry that you would be willing to take MVP Black or allowing them to have map pick instead of trying to dictate those terms.
The thing is, no matter what, they're going to get the map pick, whether you beat them in this map or not. And I think that most teams worldwide are valuing first pick over the map pick. So especially against a team like Black that's kind of been consistently outdrafting them in this series, wouldn't make that argument for their series in the winner's bracket. But in this loser's bracket series, I feel like you just have to control the draft early. Maybe that's targeting down Rich's hero pool, but the hero pool is getting bigger. With the Dahaka, we're seeing the Arthas, and he's just kind of expanded. And Black is now looking to target down Cyan's pool, but they get the Oriole.
They get the Oriole, and I have to say, while I absolutely agree that drafts played a huge role here, it was also a matter of execution in a lot of the situations that we saw here. And Tempest, they definitely have the tools, but they need to show it right now, because my problem is not that they lost the last two maps, it's the way they lost both of them. 4 level leads each time in a completely dominant MVP Black. Tempest really needs to just focus on the coordination that we saw in the winner bracket match against MVP Black, where they were able to decide the series in their favor. But right now, Uriel as the first pick can see the double support again, but MVP Black, they now of course get their choice on Genji, and we have Muradin.
So, you know, in a lot of other regions, you would think, this is an amazing opportunity for Tempest. They can go Uther, Oriole, but this is the Korean meta, this is the Asian region, this is the Eastern Clash. It's going to be the Uther Vala here, so that double support for the protection for Vala against the Genji draft. I think Tempest is actually playing very smart. It's very clearly Black is trying to narrow the hero pool of Cyan here with the Muradin early pick, the ETC ban. But I think the reaction to how much has been committed to limiting Cyan's hero pool is actually being used against them here with the kind of Trinity Vala.
The thing that scares me the most, so if you go back to mid-season Brawl, Xingxi and E-Star single-handedly said, hey, look, this works really well as we see the Chromie ban. But Xingxi was so dominant that he single-handedly globally changed the meta. You look at Europe, you look at North America, you look at all of these regions, all of a sudden it's like double support, hard double support with that carry, and it's been weird, and Tempest is pulling out something that is not Tempest-esque.
That is exactly E-Star's Dragonshire draft. Control the 4-man, dominate it, and just make sure that you push with it. On the map here, you can, of course, go in a 1-1-3, have the double support Vala down at the bot lane. E-Star at times played it with 4-man pushing down a lane and trying to side soak the other two. But this is definitely something where Tempest adjusts a bit, and I can't wait to see how this is going to work out against MVP Black. But the first thing that we have to wait for is how does Black react to it, because by now, of course, they know what's up.
You need to, I think, dominate the solo lane, right? And Nazeebo's come in. They want to delay the game, extend the game. We saw Nazeebo played just earlier by CE on this map. They got to 20. They got the viral infection. It didn't work out for them. But you have to think now that Tempest wants to also dominate the solo lane. They could pick a Malthael here. They could just destroy that lane, defeat whatever Rich is going to bring to the table, and then have the strong 4-man and the solo lane wins, control the objective. And you have to, of course, win the game early. You have to get a keep before 20 to defeat the Nazeebo comp.
I know this is like one of those moments where I think it might be a little bit over the top, but looking at this team, I feel Dahaka or Arthas is a safe bet. It's been a while, but I would almost like to see a potential Zeratul coming out here from Rich.
I mean,
so one thing that you lack is kind of that hard control. It forces Uther into the potential Divine Shield as over the Storm. You can force out the Aegis. You can go a lot into that, and we see the Diablo Dahaka taken by Tempest, but it forces out a lot. And you know, it's one of those things that I saw that was broken down at midseason. There's a lot to be said about it. I feel we might get a safe option here.
I mean, right now it looks like Malthael, and that's exactly what they take.
Oh, Onkona was not happy about that, seeing his player cam down there.
But I mean, Malthael is such an obvious choice now from the way that Rich has been playing it. don't understand how you can be surprised that this is going to be the pick.
I'm surprised they didn't take the Malthael themselves. The surprise they took the Dahaka instead.
I mean, let me come back to something else. If you go into an Azebo, your idea is normally, hey, we want to reach the late game. Hey, boys, level 20, that's where we are really striking. 16 is another power spike for him. But if you have a Vala with a double support and you play your cards right, you can really start to pressure and push these lanes. Oriel in particular is just going to provide you with endless heals if played correctly. So Tempest definitely has an opportunity to punish the weaker early game on the side of MVP Black if they play correctly.
Especially with the Diablo as well, Kaldor, to try to minimize what Nazeebo can accomplish in that early game. But we are going to what could be the last game of the series. MVP Black on match point. They spawn here on Dragonshire to the red side.
To the red with an Azebo composition, the Malthael for the top lane, and all the way on the left, at the other side of the map, we have Team Tempest. Diablo Dahaka at the front, the double support with Uther and Oriel. And we see the Vala as the hyper carry in the team composition, supported by the double support.
Yeah, and big shocker, we're going to see the auto attack build here.
Didn't expect that at all, Kappa. No, I mean, seriously, with Devil's Due, with the double support and everything that these two offer, I think Tempest has now really a shot at pressuring MVP Black in the early game, as we expect here. You can really siege up on structures. And this is a map where oftentimes we see the game go to the late game, but it's a question of whether Tempest, up to that point when MVP Black could hit 20, is able to take down a keep or two to get the global pressure against their opponent.
And this is not the style of Tempest, even though Hyde was one of the first players to play Oriel and was really a big fan of the Oriel. It was played with Gul'dan back then, and it was because he was so good at detainment strikes and building the hope. He was the first person in Korea to say, no, look, if you build it with the right heroes, you build correctly, you can make Oriel viable, and most people were saying that was just simply not true. But in this comp, it's a bit weird. This is the comp that we'd see from L5. This is a comp we'd see from MVP Miracle and some of the Western teams with a Lunara instead of the Vala. But we'll see if they can execute this correctly because they're just simply not that experienced with it. But my hope is that also Sign on the Diablo will be able to get consistent picks on Sake, who's absolutely respecting the pick right now, staying behind this wall.
But what we're already seeing is a rotation between the mid and the bot lane, and that is a little bit old school here. Oftentimes it's more so the split and with a three-man that at the bot. But it already helped them to pressure these towers a lot. Ammunition has been drained, and they can continue the trend. Because when we look at the wave clear on both of these sides, it's clearly Tempest that shines.
Yeah, Sign actually getting bullied up here by that three-man rotation at the top. It's just Sake sitting down in the bot lane, making sure he can build up these stacks, get his health pool up. He's leading towards the level 20. Eventually, he's going to have it. That's a long way away from where we are now. But as long as he doesn't get picked, he's going to be in good shape. And a wall is one thing, a keep is another. If they end up losing this wall, it gives the EXP lead to Tempest. It's a structural lead as well. But they're looking to just at least try to stay even or a little bit below even against this hyper carry Vala comp in the early game.
Yeah, MVP Black is double laning at times the top because they're trying to put the extra pressure on Dahaka with Tist on Murden rotating over and of course trying to go for a kill here even. But that bot lane is going to suffer all game long. That double support is so strong. Here comes the gank attempt though. They knew this was coming. Diablo was the target first of all in the middle, but here comes the zombie wall against Lockdown. Really, but guess who is here? The Lord of Terror is starting to join up with the rest of the team. And Wolf, the towers are down. The wall is going to break. Experience, thanks to Malthael and the constant rotations to top, is still even. But still, Tempest has a much better position, I want to say, than they had in the previous two games.
Absolutely, but Black still has a slight experience lead because of the top push, and we're seeing this actually with a heavy rotation down. H82 not reacting very quickly. This has been Black's MO against Tempest so many times to punish H82 in the solo lane, but Sign rotating over. The fort is firing here onto reset. He's got the slows on him, and they're going to have to back away. But during all of this, we see the mid-rotation from Tempest, leaving Sake now to get free soak.
Furion, he's down, and that's the kill right there. Three-man at the top for MVP Black, greeting for a kill against Dahaka that they don't get. And in the meantime, it's Malfurion in the mid lane that's getting taken out. And it's not only him. They put even more pressure now on these front walls. So from a structural point, Tempest is attempting to set themselves apart a bit. Even with the siege train camp that they have, they can heavily push for the fort.
It's funny that we only have one kill given the massive rotations we're seeing with the four-mans just over and over and over again. Feels like someone accidentally reverted the Mount nerf for speed with how quickly we're seeing these guys guys just fly between lanes. Now we see Tempest go with the invade. After the Sake pushed the lane in, they dealt with it with the first camp. Now they're going to take the second one here, removing options, removing opportunities for Black to take back control of that bottom lane. We see the dive in here again onto H82, but we could see a collapse up here now that the pressure's on in the bot lane.
And they go immediately for the fountain. So they're really attempting to push this forward even further. Sake with the attempted defense against the Siege Giants finally takes them down, but we have already a significant amount of damage pushed in. The cool thing for Black is really just that at the top lane, with them always putting a second hero over there, they have such a great situation where they can maybe even get the fort first. So Tempest might have that bot lane, but MVP Black is heavily dominating the top of the map.
It's so important for Black to stay even in experience. In terms of getting a keep with the Dragon Knight, the top lane's not the one that you want, but it's good for Black that they can keep this game even, because that means they get their heroics not at a deficit. They push the game towards the late game. They're trying to have this game go to 20, and this push down here for Tempest is trying to open up the keep wall, so when they get a Dragon Knight, they can try to get that keep and end the game. So that's the trade-off. That's why we see this prioritization from Tempest in the bot lane over the top lane, because the top lane is not where you end the game. It's not where you Dragon Knight a keep.
But it's actually MVP Black that has now the lead. And you were talking about the fort a bit, and you're absolutely right. The top lane is not really the lane where you want to push. But as long as nobody reacts, Malthael can just simply do whatever he wants here. He got the early Night Camp. He can go for the towers here as well. They have a lead in experience. And let's not forget, with them taking the fort out, their control of the shrine at the top lane has increased, since they are the only ones that can still fall back behind a wall, tap the fountain, and then re-engage into a fight. So Tempest has lost a lot of control on the upper half of the map.
And you would think that with a global hero like Dahaka and such a great ganking hero like Diablo, they'd be able to punish Rich, who's on Malthael, doesn't have strong escapes, doesn't have a lot of mobility. If he's pushing all the way to the Bridge of Death, you would think there'd be a way to punish that, but they just simply are not, as you say. And this is going to be massive control of the top shrine, which means more delay factors. Will they be able to channel a Dragon Knight versus the 4-man with the Vala Ariel? Probably not, but they don't need to, not in the early game at least. They're just doing this to buy further time, to extend this game. It's a great plan for Black. They're running the Gazebo comp very well, and in fact, we're going to very briefly here attempt to channel.
So far, it's definitely Black and not Tempest. They're doing a great job in the early game. The bottom of the map, that was Tempest's oyster, but right now, Black negating all of those advantages that we pointed out before is in a fine spot. But here come the stuns and the kill against Genji. A nice chain stun, but at the top lane, it's the Haka, who barely gets out, is able to escape. Oh my god.
Looks like a desperate click onto these bushes, but actually they're going to try to turn this into a double. Remember, Rich doesn't have very much of an escape.
Strike.
They have the detainment strike here. Rich is trying to fight his way out. He's not going to make it, though. Will be taken out here. No mobility. So the double here, finally for Tempest. Finally they punish Rich, and they will be able to perhaps try to grid a Dragon Knight. Look at what's happening in the bot lane, though. Malfurion and Zebo, the dastardly duo, though, going to take the camp. And even if this top lane is taken out, remember, Black doesn't care. Want to stay even in EXP, so that's a little bit of a problem, but they're more concerned about the bot lane. They want that lane to be controlled, and the mid lane, of course. Those are the lanes where the Dragon Knight can go directly to those keeps as we reach the mid game. Talking 16, 17 level when we're at that stage of the Dragon Knight scaling.
Oh, H82 in so much trouble here, and he goes down as reset hits the reset. The Haka eliminated, and we have once again...
Lightning Breath.
Of fire. Lightning Breath has been used already. Kyoja low. Can they get a counter kill? I don't really think so. They were willing to engage into that fight, but Oriel now falls after the Haka was already dead. A 5 versus 4. Now, to put this a bit in perspective, Tempest was supposed to have a stronger early game here, but thanks to those constant rotations from MVP Black to the top lane, where the Haka was facing off against Malthael, Black always stayed even. And within a Zebo in their lineup, Black wants to reach the late game around level 20 to get that massive power spike. The one caveat is that Tempest, with a double support, has probably the best chances to out-heal the pressure and the damage that a level 20 in a Zebo can throw out.
Yeah, and also for the Malthael team fights as well. That's something they may be able to out-heal. Lockdown does get caught here. Look at this, the Twilight Dream, just for good measure. Probably wasn't even needed here with the good spider wall. But as you say, this is supposed to be a one game for Tempest. Black's main objective, their main goal was to stay even, but they've got a Dragon Knight. They're pushing down forts. They're about to take a massive structural lead. They have the advantage in EXP. They get the kill here on Honkono. This game is rapidly falling away from Tempest.
It definitely is. 4 kills against 3 doesn't sound like much, but the way this game has been going, this is going to be fantastic for Black towards the later stages. 13 talents for them. They have level 14 against level 12, and now with a double ice block, they're even safer on Nazeebo and also Malfurion. They get the Dragon Knight, they push through the bot lane. All forts are eliminated from a structural point, from any kind of point, no matter how you look at it. MVP Black is once again
dominating.
ahead.
They're dominating. This is not a comp that Tempest runs. This is not their play style. They're again trying to adapt on the fly in this series. This is the second draft where you feel like they're really trying to break what the fans' expectations of what we know of Tempest, how they draft. They're trying to say, no, we know this style too. We don't show it often, but we've practiced it. I can't believe that notion after watching it though. They didn't dominate the early game. The Diablo wasn't getting the picks on Nazeebo, and a lot of fans were saying after the performance we saw from Tempest, they were the favorites going into this second series here in the losers match. People were saying we might see the very first Tempest versus L5 finals we've ever seen in Heroes history, but as it is right now, Calder, I don't think we're headed down that path.
MVP Black is definitely trying to make this a 3-0, and that is not what I expected after
I don't think
Black
anybody did.
Struggled against CE. I don't think Tempest expected it either, and they really have now to step it up if they want to make sure that they can at least push it into game number 4, because right now they are struggling. The top lane at least is starting to get pushed. They still have the double support with Vala, but keep in mind that even now after they have 13, the window for Black is soon opening again with an advantage since they are close to get the level 16 talent.
What we just saw there was, though, showing the double support power against the comp of Black. You know, we can see some glimmers of hope. The healing versus the poison damage, the slow damage over time coming out from Rich on the Malthael. You saw Vala there in a very compromising position. The heals come in. She's saved there. Long term, will this work out once Nazeebo finishes his voodoo ritual? It feels unlikely with the extra damage. Sion's not going to be there on the front line for very long, but there are still glimmers of hope. All 3 keeps stand for Tempest, but remember, Black was never supposed to be this far ahead. It was supposed to be them fighting to stay even.
It's also not only Nazeebo that we have to worry about in the late game. When we talk about Malthael, he is fantastic towards the late game, especially then with a touch of death. He is just one of the best heroes overall against double support. It's going to be fantastic for him.
Look at Coach's angle here. Look at this angle for the Twilight Dream. Look at that. The triple silence here with the Dragon Blade. This could be a disaster for Tempest.
Vala down, Oriel as well, Uther falls, and this is an entire team wipe as Black eliminates the entire setup. Inevitable end on the side of Malthael also, of course. A fantastic tool here against the stun chain that Tempest was trying to employ over and over again. MVP Black is just absolutely crushing them at this point.
Diablo's lost his stacks now. He's come back to life to try to do what? Soak mid? He's doing very little here. Black is going to just vanilla. Without a Dragon Knight, push down the first keep of the game. They have the Night Camp. Meanwhile, Rich grabs that shrine. He can just casually walk mid. It's going to be another Dragon Knight for MVP Black, and they may be able to core with this if they can get some more picks here. Tempest has to win this fight. Here comes the strafe.
Tempest goes in aggressively. They try to get a kill before the Dragon Knight appears, but it's already too late. Black moved back, waiting for the DK to arrive, and Tempest at this point has to beg for mercy. They're still half a level away, more than that actually, from level 16 talents. And here comes Rich with a DK. They're trying to end the game here.
Oh man, this is Tempest's best performance in a tournament since 2016. They wanted this finals. They wanted to face L5 to knock Black out here, but Black is now marching on the core. Too much extra scaling here for Nazeebo. They made it to this late game. The kick on the ball, that means no more DPS. She just got sent straight to the middle of nowhere in the mid lane. The core will fall, and MVP Black, with their most dominant series of the tournament, they get revenge on Tempest and take the series with a 3-0 score.
Absolutely crazy to see MVP Black dominate this hard after what we've just seen about a few hours ago against CE. Very happy faces compared to what's happened to after the Chinese series against the Chinese team. I'm shocked.
You wouldn't think that the most dominant performance Black shows in this tournament is not against CE, it's not against Soul Torturers, but it's against Tempest, the team that knocked them down to the losers bracket in the first place.
They've had a long climb back, but they're going to find themselves in the grand finals against L5. we asked them before, is the rivalry there? I think we're going to see more continuation of that. I'm looking forward to the grand finals.
Yeah, you know, when we talked to them before the tournament, they were so confident. And the question was, do you really feel like there's a strong rivalry between you and L5?
No.
And they said, no, not without Noblesse, not without Nacho Jin. This is not the L5 that we had a rivalry with, but we see the same grand finals we saw at the Eastern Clash. Black took it last time. We'll see if they can do it again, defend their title. It looked like they might have gotten knocked out, but what a great performance. And after this 3-0, I feel like the finals gets that much more exciting.
I'm just thinking about this from the perspective from L5. After you watch MVP Black versus CE, you're probably just starting to think, okay, guys, I think we're actually up against Tempest, so we have to... They probably just like scrum and say like, okay, let's look at the drafts again that we prepared for MVP Black. I don't think we're going to need them. And then they see this series and they're like, what just happened? So this is going to be a great grand final because L5 definitely has to make moves now in order to beat this MVP Black.
And the whole thing is that in each of those interviews, everybody proclaimed MVP Black as the favorite, recognizing that it would be a tough task. But again, L5, after what they've seen throughout this entire tournament, seeing MVP Black come back, the favorites coming into the tournament, it reminds me of somebody from EU named Dignitas back at Western Clash just back in March. And that was the thing, is that Dignitas got put out and they had one hell of a fight against Fnatic to lead that. And that Dignitas-Fnatic rivalry kind of reminds me of what we see here between MVP and L5.
It's a shame if you're a Tempest fan. You know, they did so well back at 2016 summer. They won that tournament. It's the first big title and the only big title the team has had outside of course, the Super League Grand Finals they took against Black there. This was their best option, basically, until we have BlizzCon later on in the year for them to repeat that title. And I feel like it's a little bit of a disappointing performance if you're a Tempest fan. That 0-3, this is not the same Tempest we saw 2 days ago in the winners bracket.
It's definitely not quite the result with which you want to go out of the tournament. But we've talked a little bit about MVP Black and how they changed things up from their previous series against CE, now against Team Tempest. And one person that, of course, can tell us a lot more about how this came to pass and what they expect for the grand final is now on stage with
I'm lucky enough to have Kyocha here for a couple seconds before they have to get ready for the grand final. So let's go ahead and get this started. Kyocha, going into game number 1, I have to ask you, has the beast within MVP Black been awoken?
지금 MVP의 안에 깨워 있나요? 자신감하고 이런 게 깨워졌어요. 이거 이기고 나서요.
첫 번째 경기 때보다는 훨씬 나아진 것 같아요.
It's much better than our first game.
It's definitely a good point there. Getting ready for the grand finals. Obviously, you're facing off against L5. Are there any nerves?
이제 결승전에 긴장이 돼요?
아니요.
Not at all.
Wow, super simple here from Kyocha. We'll go ahead and get them ready for the grand finals, which will be coming soon after this commercial break. L5 taking on MVP Black.
Introducing HGC Cheer. To bring more hype to HGC